Hello everyone, my name is Owain on the Thomas Bros channel, and this is my brother.
Dewey.
So today we will be talking about episode 6, 7 and 8 of your Friendly Neighbourhood Spider-Man. So these episodes have released, recently.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to get spoiled, then please click off now. 3, 2, 1, waffles.
Okay, so the first episode that got released this week was Duel with the Devil.
Yes. So it starts off with Peter talking to Nico about how, Nico should be friends with Harry, and about having Harry and Nico go over to his house to kind of have them, bond and stuff and actually be friends.
Yeah, it's a bit tense after that last episode where it ended off with, going to the cinema.
Yes. And at the same time, you're also having Lonnie, who's quitting the football team.
Yes.
And that was a bit of a sad interaction because he's so dedicated to the football team.
Yeah, it was a big sacrifice, but I think it's not just because of protecting his brother. Now he's joined that gang. He feels like that the gang itself has become more of a family to him as well.
And so he also has a bit of an argument with Pearl.
Yes.
Where Pearl's asking where he's been and stuff. And they have that bit of an argument. But then after that, you have obviously Lonnie going to his house and
yes, that interaction with his little brother, because now it seems that the roles are reversed, because it started off with the younger brother going into a gang and Lonnie, being the responsible one. But now that he sees he's going down the gang, he has to step up now and be the responsible one.
So they have that little interaction about how the younger brother's saying that he should have been the screw up and Lonnie was actually meant to be the one to do something with his life. And so I like that interaction, to give Lonnie some depth and stuff with his character in his household. But then you have Peter and Nico and Harry at Peter's house, and they're trying to decide on a film to watch while Aunt May's going out. And they end up picking Predator, don't they?
Yes, I mean they're trying to not step on each other's toes. They're trying to make the best of being friends with each other. Peter's sort of compromise, and as soon as he leaves, they sort of have this awkward moment. And it's without Peter, they have
nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
And they even play Monopoly and Battleship and loads of different games at the exact same time.
Yes, they do. They do have the little spat, don't they? Especially when he lets loose to her about Peter's identity. And she's upset because he trusted Harry more with the identity than her.
Yeah, and she's his best friend. And actually, here's something to note. You know how Peter goes to Midtown in the MCU?
Yeah.
Well, apparently it's not Midtown in this. Because of the fact that in the first episode, the fight with that Venom and Doctor Strange destroyed Midtown, he's going to a different school, which is why he meets Nico and doesn't meet people like Ned and MJ.
Interesting.
So I thought that was something.
Yeah, that does explain it. So they could still be out there, just in a different
school. In a different school. So, but anyway, at the exact same time, you've got Norman going to a charity event.
Yes.
For the place that was destroyed at the opening of Civil War when Wanda threw an exploding crossbow into that building.
You see a cameo of Senator Ross.
Yes, and Norman and him are talking about the Sokovia Accords. Norman saying that Oscorp will back any actions that the Sokovia Accords do, which is really slimy of Norman because we'd seen him that he was friends with Captain America.
Yeah.
So it shows that he really doesn't have an allegiance with anyone.
No, which means he can quickly, easily sweep the rug underneath Peter, just leave him out there.
Even tries to get Senator Ross to turn a blind eye to
his actions.
Yeah, and to Spider-Man's actions by saying
it's the start. It's the start of this setup. I feel like
that Norman isn't what he really makes himself out to be to people like Peter.
Which we'll get more into that later on in that sort of setup.
But
that side of things, Lonnie's more interaction with the group, but then he, goes on the phone to Peter, tells him that Oscorp, is
it's been broken into, because that's what Senator Ross tells Norman Osborn when he's maybe you should upgrade your security before you start thinking about securing people like Spider-Man.
Yeah. But the thing is, what you find out is that it's Daredevil in the black costume.
But he has the horns.
Yes, he has the
helmet.
horns, yes. And Charlie Cox is the voice actor.
And you've got the Daredevil theme playing in the background.
Which is really cool. And what I do like about that fight is that, in fact, it was really shown really well that, he uses his spider webs on him and his sense to avoid them as they're being shot out of his wrists. And he avoids them all because obviously his sense is supposed to be more heightened than the Spidey sense, which is really cool. So, no, I like that fight with Daredevil and Spider-Man. I thought that was really well done. But now you wonder, why was Daredevil there in the first place? Like, I think we know that Osborn will be corrupt later on tonight, but what has he found there specifically that, caused what he found there?
We were told that when he broke in, there were files that were being uploaded of Norman's relations to Doc Ock. And so I feel like he was there because of Norman's relations to Doc Ock, and that he knows about like Doc Ock's dealings. And I don't know, maybe there's more to Norman when it comes to his shady dealings and what he's done with Otto than just the fact that they were old friends and they broke up because, they do say that Doc Ock, he constantly felt like the world owed him something like money and
he's
fame.
always kept saying that though, like he always referenced Stark and Banner and all that.
Yeah, and that he felt like the world always owed him something for him just being there.
Yeah.
And for him to do stuff. So, yeah, that was like an interesting way of establishing Otto's motivations. And so, after that fight, which I really liked...
Did you see at the end of that episode, was it, on what happens to Scorpion, Matt Gargan?
Oh, right, because obviously Lonnie goes to buy like some groceries and then...
He gets chased.
Yeah, by Scorpion's right-hand man in the car.
Or woman.
Oh, well, yeah, right-hand woman, sorry. And they have like that chase, she's chasing him, and he obviously gets away.
He spends the night with, the gang, obviously. This is what I guess sort of enforces his, his interaction with the gang now. He's more involved with them now than before. It's no longer in case I'm doing this to protect my brother, I'm doing this to protect them as well. So ever since he's got named Tombstone, it was that's the key trigger that everything started to go downhill, I think, for him. That and saving, obviously, the leader. So...
But that was actually, the plan, because that, the woman ends up actually, by Lonnie going to the hideout, it leads her to the hideout, and she calls Scorpion, and we see he's getting his Scorpion suit fitted by Doc Ock, which is why I suspected that he'd be the one to give him the suit.
Yeah.
It feels like Doc Ock is the thing connecting.
Instead of J. Jonah Jameson actually, funding that research this time.
It feels like Doc Ock's the thing connecting everything. He's connecting Spider-Man and Norman and Scorpion and, well, it seems like Lonnie and the 110th Street gang. So he's the thing that's connecting all.
Firstly, he's the dealer for all the tech that's going out there for all the criminal activity. Because obviously, Norman is trying to track him down. He did mention this to Peter, which actually brings us now into the second episode, which is Scorpion Rising.
Yes, and so this actually has obviously the fight with Scorpion.
Yes, that does happen at the end though. But I mean, it's all about Norman trying to track down Octavius.
Yes, so Peter and Norman are putting their heads together trying to figure out what Octavius is using to power this technology. And they even have a little thing where Peter's like, oh, maybe it's solar energy. And Norman's like, I highly doubt Otto's managed to harness the power of the sun.
Yeah, which is a reference to, the second Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire in.
Yeah. But in the end, they find out that it's Gamma.
Yes.
And which is obviously what made Hulk.
And actually fuses it with the technology that he puts on people.
Yeah, it's the power. And Peter even says that it's dangerous because it can meld stuff to your skin, which could be about Doc Ock's arms fusing with his skin. So, yeah, and actually that reminds me of something that happens in Scorpion in this episode during the fight. But we'll get into that when we actually get there. So they're able to track down Gamma signatures when obviously they pick up ones which are Scorpion.
and
he's heading to the 110th Street gang.
Yes, this is where it really kicks off one point, because you've got Lani there, Pearl there, the gang, and Matt Gargan going there as well. In fact, actually tracked him to find that hideout in the first place.
Yeah, so obviously Pearl is told by Lonnie's brother, because doesn't Pete have the interaction with Pearl in this episode?
Yes, he does actually. Yeah.
I couldn't quite remember if that was the third episode. But
well, they at school they now become partners, because obviously Lonnie's left, and because of that those two now work on this project. They get a bit closer. They go over to her house to carry on the assignment, and then he pays her a visit.
Well, yeah, but that's in the third episode.
Oh yeah, it is, isn't it, after the aftermath? But you do see that interaction starts to grow and grow and grow a bit more.
And Peter getting closer with Pearl, and that's when Lonnie's brother sends Pearl the message that he's with the 110th Street gang. So she goes there to see, and she sees Lonnie there. When Scorpion obviously attacks, Peter goes to investigate, and I feel like we should talk about Scorpion in this episode. I feel like this show has actually made Scorpion cool. Because,
they haven't held back, really.
Yeah, the first thing Scorpion does when he gets a suit is that he literally stabs a person on the screen. And I found that really cool.
There's no blood, though. He just does it sort of off camera. Yeah, but, you get the idea. He does stab him.
It's really cool how they're not holding back with how, sadistic Matt Gargan is. Because I feel like in, at least what we've seen, Matt Gargan hasn't really been done properly. In the Spider-Man games, in the first one, he was only there for a little bit, as a part of the Sinister Six.
Yeah.
We didn't really see much of him to actually know what he was about. In the second Marvel Spider-Man game, obviously he was killed by Craven. But then you had things like 90s Spider-Man, which again I don't really think enforced how crazy Scorpion is, which is fine because obviously it was a show that limited what they could do as far as enforcing certain themes and how certain characters were done, like Carnage in that show, for instance. But still, so I feel like Scorpion hasn't really been shown on how cruel he is until this show. And I think his design and his voice I think is done really well in this show.
Yeah.
Oh, and he was also in the MCU, but he hasn't really been Scorpion in that, so that doesn't really count.
No, I really liked his design, and the thing is, I think it's the setup, because he hasn't got the full-blown suit.
He's only got, the chest piece and, the claws on the feet, and then, the tail, obviously.
Yeah, so I think there's still setup later on down the line for the rest of the suit.
The tail actually doesn't even inject poison, it just fires lasers.
Yeah. So I think there's still set up there later on for the rest of the suit, for the helmet, and as you say, poison for the tail. But I like the fight. I think how brutal it was with the fight with Peter.
Yeah.
And how it tore up the suit and stabbed him, the mask, how it damaged it. And, Norman not being on call.
Yeah,
really,
Norman, kind of ignores it because he's so focused on finding Octavius that he doesn't give Peter the advice that he needs to know how he handles a situation with Scorpion. So Peter gets stabbed straight through the shoulder and then brutally beaten up. And again, that just enforces how crazy Matt Gargan is and how much of a serious threat someone dressed in a Scorpion outfit is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I really, really liked Matt Gargan in this episode. I thought this show was kind of done him really well.
Yeah, you also had in this episode as well the whole Nico and Harry thing as well.
Oh,
because those two obviously sort of distance away from each other. Harry actually does go over and to Nico and all that and says, I'm sorry about everything, that's happened between us. They try to repair that relationship.
And they drive to the rooftop and they have that little discussion about how Nico feels that Peter didn't trust me with this secret. And in the end, Nico ends up driving Harry's car and...
Fast and Furious, time in a drag race, yeah.
And actually, it's implied here that Nico is magic.
Yes, because of the medallion.
Yeah, she manages to see that there's a car about to crash into them and avoid it just in time. She saw a few seconds into the future.
Yeah,
And Because Nico, I know, is like a superhero of her own. She's in like a team called the Runaways, apparently. So it's interesting to see like that medallion in play.
No, oh my god, wait. Is she from Midnight Suns?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. I just realised now, yeah, it's her, isn't it?
Yeah.
From Midnight Suns, yeah, the game. I'm right, just in case on the official Midnight. I don't know.
So
they'll work
like
their way
the
towards
amulet is like, I guess, her power.
Yes, well, she has a staff in the game.
So I guess like this.
That's the start, I
version.
guess. But yeah, you know, she does have her own actual magic power. Let's say so. Maybe a Doctor Strange interaction later down the line.
Maybe. So yeah, I thought that was actually worth noting that she seems to have like her own.
Oh, I just
powers.
realised that now. I thought to myself, I've seen like she looked familiar, and I was like, oh, that's why. Midnight Suns.
But in the end, she ends up being friends with Harry, though she still does say that she's a bit mad at Peter.
Yeah.
But obviously, at this exact same time, Norman's found Octavius, and he's happy about it when he realises that, Peter's about to be killed. So then, the Goblin Glider comes in.
Yes, another what we said before about a little setup ready for maybe Norman later
Yeah,
on.
at first I thought it was actually just Daredevil just jumping in, but then I realised Daredevil doesn't glow.
No.
So, but it...
Gives him a serious wacko and puts him down with just a glider alone, and obviously gets...
Yeah, and then, like, he gets away with Peter, though Scorpio wasn't, like, taken down, he was just, like, knocked over, basically.
But at the very end of this, he wakes up in the hospital, Norman's with him, and says, he basically wants him to step up, and it's like, you're the one that came to Peter.
And you're the one that abandoned him, essentially. Yeah. And now
you want him to step up.
Yeah, it kind of feels like we're seeing a bit of Norman's, like, more sinister side play through here.
I think it's because he's getting more desperate because he's getting closer to what he wants.
Yeah.
And it's showing his true colours.
Because it's like he knows that it's his fault, but he's putting the blame on Peter so that he doesn't have to live with the guilt. And that's like, it's sort of something you see in Marvel Spider-Man 2 where because he's so powerful, he doesn't feel like he feels like he's invincible and thus he can't cope with losing anything. Like in that game it was Harry and his wife, and in this it's almost losing Peter, which is a valuable asset for him.
Yeah.
So rather than blaming himself and taking that responsibility, he instead blames it on Peter to get respect, which is kind of like where you get that motto from the the 8th.
Yes.
Which is Tangled Web.
Yes, and that interaction where May, says, you need someone to sort of look, because she hoped that Uncle Ben be sort of like his role model, but he goes to the wrong person to be a role model, which is Norman Osborn. And instead of the greatest quote, with great power comes great responsibility, it becomes great power comes respect.
Yes, and that's like the spin on it, and I feel like later on they will actually have the proper phrase obviously put in. But
who will say that though, Aunt May? Who will say that in the end? Because it has to be said to him, not just...
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's Aunt May. I mean, it was in the MCU.
Someone who's probably going to die, and then it has more meaning to it.
Probably by the hands of Norman Osborn, just to make, like, that whole thing...
At the end of the season, that's actually the thing you pointed out. There's only 2 more episodes left of this season, so that's a lot to fit in 2 seasons, I'm not going to lie. So.
I feel like these last 2 episodes, it'll wrap up the plot line with Scorpion and Tombstone Lonnie, but it won't with Doc Ock and... Norman, so they can leave that for like a 2nd and 3rd season. But actually, here's something. When Peter was like being put on the hospital bed and he was being fixed up, you focused on someone taking his blood, which could be set up for later down the line with maybe using his blood in like experiments.
Yeah, because you see the syringe go into his arm and you're like, oh, hang on now.
And also that people saw...
And he blanks out. The thing is, you don't know what happened in that conversation, so like anything could have happened.
And also that someone actually saw his mask and saw he was just a kid.
Yeah, a kid, but don't actually know his identity.
Yeah, but they knew how young he was and stuff. Well, Norman said, oh, absolutely no one saw your face, which is... Again, another lie that Norman said. That no one saw your face when actually someone did at least have a glimpse at it.
A glimpse, yeah, but
at least knew enough that you were a kid.
His identity, though, I think is what he meant by it, though, anyway. I don't know, like, chances are maybe someone else did see it, but, you know, you're meant to believe at this point in time that it was just Norman that knows who he is.
Well, then Pete actually, because obviously he's in a cast and stuff, but he does leave the hospital room and he goes down to Dr. Connor's.
Yes, I was going to mention that. Yeah, with the animals that are coming in.
Yes, and one of them's a lizard. So, actually, that could be something. Maybe because they established that Peter has regenerative abilities. Obviously, it's nothing like Wolverine and Deadpool, but it's still very tremendous as regeneration powers. So maybe they'll use that splice with the DNA of a lizard, and that will turn, obviously, Dr. Connors into the lizard.
Yes.
But obviously, Peter sees the experiment that he was working on. It's been finished and it's being shown off. He wasn't able to present it because obviously he was dying. But he sees that, and obviously then he goes to school. And when he's at school, he meets... doesn't he? No, he doesn't meet Nico. That was the first episode.
No, he tries to phone Nico.
Yeah, he tries to phone Nico. But he does end up going to Pearl's house, and they try to do the science.
Yeah, this is what we were saying before. Well, I was trying to say before.
When Lonnie comes to visit Pearl, and he essentially breaks up with Pearl because she doesn't want to be
to be fair though, Peter even tried to stop him, and he said, "Look, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but it's not going to work." And so basically cut off ties at that moment. And it's like, wow, after trying to get close with him beginning, now he's the one cutting him off, and it's like, well. You appreciate what Peter tried to do for him, but he told him to basically back off.
Yes.
I'll tell you what was interesting though, when you see him later on get with the gang, and then you see the chameleon come in.
Oh yes,
to find out where the technology came from for Scorpion, and obviously the chameleon knows because he had, technically the unicorn.
He was meant to go meet up with
about it. He knows about Osborn.
And obviously he's wearing the chameleon mask and stuff to kind of pay homage to his comic design. So Chameleon gives the 110th Street gang the location of Octavius, and that's another thing. Octavius gets arrested in this episode because obviously you see him farming for XP in a video game. That was
funny. I'm not gonna lie, that took me by surprise. I'm farming XP until the developers fix the exploit I found in this game. What did I say? It was Animal Crossing, because he was literally there mining with a pick on a piece of stone.
And you can see loads of crisp bags, Dorito bags and stuff on his
a real
keyboard.
Gamer, like a Dr. Pepper or something like that.
And you can even see that on one of his screens, him making dealings to get vibranium. So that's something.
Next step up for him in terms of metals and materials that he needs to take his technology up to the next level. Then the police come in, and the military cool sequence, and his arms start taking them apart and all that.
Yeah, while he's listening to jazz music and dancing around, taking all the money and
himself
tech
at the
with
pole.
him. Yeah.
And Senator Ross pulls up, but he just walks away from him you seriously just let him go? I mean, I know he's got this technology, but you've gone point blank there with the guns.
Yeah, well, obviously they knew it was because Iron Man
I know, but it just felt like that 2 seconds that, wow, he's that cool that he just let him walk away. It's oh, there we go, Iron Man, the cameo steps in.
And Doc Ock even makes an insult to Ross, saying he says, sorry, I don't have enough money for it's a certain kind of military charity for old veterans who are a part of the military, which is obviously an insult to Ross because he's an old veteran of the military. But obviously he's arrested by Tony Stark, not Ross. Doc Ock, he's arrested by Tony Stark. And Iron Man's actually in his classic suit from the comics.
Yes, which is cool. Yeah. In fact, actually, they played his theme in there as well.
Yeah, they played a mix of his theme and the Avengers theme.
The Avengers one. Well, the one from the movies, anyway.
And then they, mixed it in with Iron Man's rock and roll to make, a new...
Dun, 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 like that.
Yeah.
So, that was pretty... I like that. That was pretty cool.
But, yeah, so Doc Ock is arrested, And obviously now the 110th Street gang are being led into what they think is where Doc Ock
Yeah, it's
is,
interesting what they're going to find there. Like, what kind of
Yeah.
technology were they going to find left over? Because the thing is about Tombstone, it's not really technology that makes him tough anyway. It's like the
It's
substance
this
that
drug.
makes... Yeah.
that makes his like skin go
But
like
everything with
stone.
Octavius is to do with technology, not drugs.
But
so...
it does make me think that Doc Ock, that when they go to Doc Ock's place and they find all of his gear, that they will find the drug to turn Lonnie into Tombstone, and then that's how he'll become Tombstone. Because obviously they're going there to get upgrades so they can actually rival Matt Gargan as Scorpion, who's still on the loose. And then this episode actually ends with Harry talking to Peter about how, Norman may think he knows what's best, but he's not Spider-Man. And then we even see a glimpse of Peter's...
Yeah, and they cut it off right there and then, so we knew what they were doing with that.
Of Peter's red and blue suit, since obviously his white one was damaged.
Which is really cool of Harry, getting that interaction with him. I think, Harry's really cool in this for doing that for Peter because, he's listened to him. They both share the same interest of giving it more colour. He did something that his father wouldn't do and get him a new suit and stuff like that. So.
It kind of like reflects how with Norman it's like more like base, like all the life sucked out of it kind of suit. But then with like Harry and Peter, who are the younger people and aren't tied down by like corporate greed and stuff, it has more life and more colour to it.
Yeah.
So I thought like in terms of visuals, that's a good representation of just how different those sides of humanity are, I guess.
No, that's really cool. Can't wait to see the fully fleshed out design. I mean, it's red and blue, but it's nice to see in this animation. On the transitions, sometimes when like Peter's sort of walking, you see like the comic book pages flip over.
Actually,
I like that.
That's something that I liked when Peter was walking away from having had that fight with Lonnie. It reflects when Lonnie in the first episode was walking back to his house. You can see with Lonnie you had like the dirty things, like the police pulling him over and stuff, and like the dirty streets. Well, with Peter, it's more nicer, like better streets, cleaner streets, and then obviously going to Oscorp in this luxury tower, and just to show how different their lives are and their living places.
No, I think that's a cool transition that you got with that. I do like this art style. It's very unique. I haven't really seen this in many other shows unless you have.
No, I don't think I really have. It's like a mix of 3D and 2D.
Yeah. I can't... I mean, chances are we have missed stuff.
Yeah, we have missed a lot of stuff. There's only one more thing I do want to say, and it's that remember when Peter had that nightmare scene? I did like how
with Nico, yeah?
Yeah, and it reminded me of the nightmare scene he has with Mysterio in Far From Home.
Yeah, that was interesting. Set up there, maybe?
Possibly. We might see Mysterio
They
at some point.
I think it said now that they're planning for seasons 2 and 3 to commence. Now, obviously, I don't think they can easily fit all these characters into these last 2 episodes. So the ones that probably are going to at least try and focus on finishing off Matt Gargan, Scorpion, and maybe Tombstone.
Yeah.
Or he set up for the Tombstone ready for next because they definitely said that Norman Osborn and
Doc Ock.
Doc Ock. So yeah, he's maybe captured, but doesn't mean
he's gone.
Yeah. So it's interesting to see how this is going to end. The season is going to end anyway, and setup's ready for later on. But still a lot to cram into 2 episodes, honestly. But I can't wait for it. Anything else you want to add?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, then, in that case, if there's anything we've missed, then please feel free to leave down in the comments and tell us what you think of this series so far, and if you've enjoyed it. But for today, that's going to be it from me, Dewi, and my brother.
Oh,
And we'll catch you all in the next video. Bye-bye.
Ta-da.